Ancient connections. The roots of Shan-Burmese relations. The Shan, a people of Thai origin, arrived in present-day Myanmar centuries ago, establishing powerful principalities. Early interactions with the Burmese were characterized by trade and cultural exchange, fostering a complex relationship. The emergence of the pagan kingdom in the 11th century marked a significant shift, with the Burmans seeking to assert their dominance over the Shan states. The rise and fall of the Shan states. The Shan states maintained a degree of independence, often engaging in alliances with Burmese kings to counter rivals or consolidate their own power. The 16th century saw the rise of the Kambong dynasty, leading to increased Burmese control and the assimilation of many Shan states. Despite periods of conflict, cultural exchanges continued, evident in architecture, language, and religious practices. The colonial era and its impact. The British colonization of Burma in the 19th century further complicated the relationship between the Shan and Burmans, with the British attempting to exploit regional divisions. The Shan states experienced a period of relative stability under British rule, but this also brought about economic and social changes. The emergence of Shan nationalist movements during the colonial era reflected a growing sense of identity and a desire for autonomy. The road to independence and beyond. Myanmar gained independence in 1948, but the Shan people continued to seek greater autonomy within a federal system. The post-independence period witnessed sporadic armed conflicts between the Burmese military and various Shan ethnic armed groups. The 2021 military coup has brought renewed challenges and uncertainties for the Shan people, with concerns about their rights and cultural preservation. Myanmar is also called Burma. It is a country in Southeast Asia. Its people are called Burmese. But did you know that the Burmese people were not the first to inhabit the land of Myanmar? Many centuries ago, long before the modern Burmese arrived, there were other people living there. They were called the Shans. In fact, the Shans were not just the original inhabitants of Myanmar. They were also the first to establish a kingdom there. It happened around 2,000 years ago. The Shan kingdom thrived for many centuries. It was powerful and prosperous. But like all good things, it didn't last forever. Around 1,000 years ago, the Shan kingdom began to weaken. Invasions from neighboring Thailand and China took their toll on the kingdom. Shan rulers had to flee to the hills. Some say they fled to a place called Mobi. This is where the Shan people have remained ever since, clinging to their traditions and culture. Today there are around 6 million Shans in Myanmar. They make up 9% of the country's population, but their total population is around 13 million. This includes the Shans living outside Myanmar, mostly in neighboring Thailand. The Shans speak a language that belongs to the Tikka group. Other groups include the Wa, the Kaya, the Karen, and the Lahu. All these ethnic groups together are called the border people or the frontier people. This is because they live along the borders of Myanmar, mostly in the eastern part of the country. For many years, the border people remained isolated from the rest of the world. That was until the 1800s when the British came to power. The British came to Myanmar as traders. They set up trading posts in major cities like Yangon and Mandalay. Soon they began to meddle in the politics of Myanmar. They formed alliances with the kings of Myanmar and financed their wars. But as time passed, they began to lose interest in these alliances. The British now wanted to rule Myanmar directly, so they began to take over the Shan states one by one. By the 1880s, they had taken over all of Myanmar. The British Raj lasted for about 60 years. During this time, the Shans and other border people were subjected to forced labor and military conscription. Many of them fled to neighboring countries like China and Thailand. But some stayed back and fought against the British. They formed rebel groups and launched attacks on the British. In 1945, the Japanese came to power in Myanmar. The Shans and other ethnic groups welcomed them as liberators. But the Japanese too had their own agenda. They too wanted to rule Myanmar. So they too began to meddle in the politics of Myanmar. But the Japanese occupation didn't last long. After World War II, the British returned to power. This time, the Shans and other ethnic groups were not willing to accept the British rule. They wanted independence for Myanmar. So they joined hands and formed a rebel army. They were led by General Smithu. On January 4, 1948, General Smithu led his army into the capital city of Yangon. This forced the British to flee. Myanmar was now independent. But the story doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. Now that Myanmar was independent, the Shan and Burmese leaders began to fight for control of the country. It was a bloody battle that lasted for many years. But in the end, the Burmese emerged victorious. The Shan had to settle for autonomy. And that's how the modern state of Shan was born.